Pakistan's Pahalgam probe narrative blunted U.S. tilts towards India in diplomacy. Tussle in the wake of the gruesome terrorist attack in Pahalgam that killed 26 civilians, mostly Hindus, Pakistan has once again attempted to shift the narrative, this time by calling for a neutral or third-party investigation. But unlike in the past, the familiar playbook has failed to gain traction. A host of influential voices in Washington have not only rejected Pakistan's framing of the incident, but have also expressed unambiguous support for India. While the United States has maintained formal contact with both New Delhi and Islamabad, the messaging has leaned decisively in India's favor. Senior U.S. officials, including the Secretary of State and the Vice President, have spoken directly with Indian leadership, reaffirming support and recognizing India's right to act against terrorism. Pakistan, by contrast, has been advised to cooperate and held to account, a shift in tone that reflects where Washington's strategic trust now lies. This moment marks a notable departure from Washington's traditionally cautious stance in South Asia. In public statements and diplomatic outreach, U.S. leaders have made it clear that India is not merely one of two regional parties, it is a trusted strategic partner. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke with External Affairs Minister S. J. Shankar, reaffirming support for India and urging Pakistan to assist, not lead any investigation. His words left no room for ambiguity. The burden of cooperation lies with Islamabad. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, who was in India on a 4-day visit when the attack took place, echoed this sentiment. In an interview with Fox News' special report, Vance said, "Our hope here is that India responds to this terrorist attack in a way that doesn't lead to a broader regional conflict." Asked about India-Pakistan tensions, he added, "We hope, frankly, that Pakistan, to the extent that they're responsible, cooperates with India to make sure that the terrorists sometimes operating in their territory are hunted down and dealt with." U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth also spoke with Defense Minister Rajnath Singh following the attack. Hegseth conveyed condolences and expressed strong solidarity, stating that the United States supports India's right to defend itself. Singh, in turn, highlighted Pakistan's sustained support for terrorism and called for a strong international message. The United States' growing closeness with India also reflects a broader strategic recalibration. Washington's engagement is increasingly issue-based, focused on trade, defense sales, and tech cooperation rather than reactive diplomacy. The two countries have set an ambitious trade target of $500 billion by 2030, and recent announcements related to software and defense tech transfers are being seen as more than transactional. They signal deeper alignment. Meetings between Indian Foreign Secretary Vinay Quatra and the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Defense, though held just before the attack, have taken on fresh symbolic weight in this context. U.S. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce said on Thursday that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has the full support of President Donald Trump and his administration in the nation's fight against terrorism. As President Donald Trump articulated to Prime Minister Modi last week, the United States stands strong with India against terrorism, and Prime Minister Modi has our full support, she said. Bruce added that Secretary Rubio had spoken with both J. Shankar and Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, and that the U.S. remains in regular contact with both sides. U.S. Intelligence Chief Tulsi Gabbard also strongly condemned the attack, tweeting, "We stand in solidarity with India in the wake of the horrific Islamist terrorist attack, targeting and killing 26 Hindus in Pahalgam. We are with you and support you as you hunt down those responsible for this heinous attack." While official engagement with India has been visible and vocal, Pakistan has found itself increasingly on the margins. Its ambassador in Washington has instead turned to televised interviews in what appears to be a plea for relevance, even attempting to reach President Donald Trump in hopes of drawing him into the crisis. The lack of response so far underscores just how little attention Islamabad is receiving in Washington's power corridors. This diplomatic sidelining has not gone unnoticed. What's emerging is a rare consensus across the U.S. political spectrum that India is not just a regional counterparty, but a frontline actor in the global fight against terrorism, one whose concerns are being heard and addressed. Pakistan's once familiar pitch for third-party mediation, used for years to delay accountability, is no longer being entertained with the same diplomatic courtesy. In a televised interview on ARI News, Pakistan's Prime Ministerial Advisor Rana Sanaullah claimed that Pakistan was open to a neutral inquiry and would even consider a third-party or expert-led investigation. He cast doubts on India's version of the attack and suggested that the incident was being politicized for strategic gain. He also alleged that India was escalating tensions and threatening regional peace. But Sanaullah's remarks, intended to generate international sympathy and shift scrutiny, have largely fallen flat. Indian officials have rejected Pakistan's proposal for a neutral investigation outright. Their response is not just political, it is rooted in experience. After the 2016 Pathankot airbase attack, India had allowed a Pakistani joint investigation team JIT access to the site and to evidence gathered by the NIA. But the goodwill was never reciprocated. The Pakistani JIT did not share its findings, and Islamabad never responded to India's letter rogatory, a formal legal request for cooperation. This, Indian officials point out, is part of a pattern. Nearly 20 such requests have been sent across several terror attacks from the 2008 Mumbai siege to Pulwama in 2019. Most have gone unanswered. In each case, Pakistan promised cooperation only to obstruct or delay. Against this backdrop, Indian officials view the latest offer of neutrality as hollow. Swipe left for next video. India has long maintained that Pakistan's gestures of cooperation are performative and strategically insincere. What's different now is that key global actors, especially the United States, seem to agree. With US officials engaging Indian leadership directly, affirming India's right to respond, and publicly naming terrorism emanating from Pakistani soil, the old language of regional balance has been replaced by one of clear alignment. In this recalibrated diplomatic landscape, Pakistan's narrative built on denial, delay, and diversion is not just being challenged. It's being ignored. Latest blogs.